Hey guys, my name is Chris, and thank you so much for checking out my expense tracker. I really wanted to share this with you guys because I believe that managing your expenses and tracking every dollar is important when you are building a strong foundation with your money. And so I just wanted to share with you guys what I do on a regular basis to track expenses and how you can use this tracker to track expenses for 2021. And I'm going to be giving a quick tutorial of all of the different tabs and how exactly the tracker works, because I do think for so many of those trackers and apps out there, um, they are sometimes challenging to use, and you may not get a full walkthrough for how exactly to use it. And so it's going to start off with three things. We're going to first enter our different categories. You're going to two, enter your start date. And then three, we're going to enter in some sample transactions for your income and expenses in their respective tabs. And so the categories is actually very simple. I have 15 different expense categories listed for you and 10 income categories. And so for these, I actually have about 10 listed or 11 listed. For your expenses. And so we have, housing, groceries, dining out, transportation. Then I have four extra. And so you can actually rename any of these categories if you want. Maybe for your expenses, you want to add in childcare. All you have to do is just type over any existing category and it would update it within the spreadsheet. Let's say within the income category, you have your paycheck, you have a few side hustles. Maybe you wanted to add an additional category such as um, second job. You can update any of these categories that are highlighted in blue. The next thing is we want to enter in the start date. And so this is the start date that you'd want to set for the tracker. The way that this tracker is set up, it's set up for one entire calendar year. But if you want to start tracking, from March to March, from June to June, you can do that. Currently, I have it set for January 1st, 2021. And that's when I believe most of you guys who are looking at this in December will be using this tracker for. And then the third part is we're going to take a look at some of those sample transactions and input them directly into the tracker. And just a few kind of helpful hints, I really recommend to list recurring expenses at the beginning of every single month. This may be your housing, like your rent or your mortgage, any sort of car payment, subscriptions to like Netflix or things like that. I definitely recommend listing those out in the beginning of the month, just so you have an idea of what your reoccurring expenses are going to be going forward. Also, get into a routine. When I first started tracking my expenses, I was tracking it regularly, every Sunday and every Wednesday, and I still do that today because the last thing that you want to do is go 2 to 3 weeks without tracking it, and you're not sure, and then things get confusing, and so it's so important to get in a routine with tracking your expenses and your money. And the third helpful hint is to export your online credit card statements if you have those available to you. This can make importing into the tracker so much easier. And if you guys want a separate video on that, I could certainly create one. But I actually just copy and paste a number of my transactions for my credit card statements directly into this tracker. And so we're going to go through some of these sample transactions. And I have 3 months for the income and I have 3 months for expenses. And so for January, I'm going to just copy and paste the January income, and I'm going to go to this income tab. And how this tab is set up is you only want to enter in the day, the category, the amount, and any sort of extra notes that you want for this particular line item. And so the month and the week number will automatically be calculated based upon the date that you input in column C. And so if we paste that in, you'll see the listed transactions and the month and week number automatically populated. And then you'll actually see all of those transactions show up here. And so I'm going to just go back and copy and paste February and March, just so we have it in the tracker. And so if we go back, now we have 3 months worth of data. We have January, February, March, and this is for 2021. And so we can add certain notes. Maybe we can see that side hustle number 1 is, Facebook Marketplace. Maybe we know that side hustle number 2 is, Starbucks. And if I want to add in a separate line, you can enter in a custom date. Like, let's say I wanted to do April 1st, 2021. And all of the different categories, they're actually drop downs from those categories that we selected on the setup tab. And so notice we have paycheck, side hustle 1, 2, 3, 4. We have the second job. We have the extra categories. And so I can select, second job, and I can put in, let's say I made $50 from it. And so when you enter every single line item, you'll have those categories from the respective categories that you inputted in the setup tab. And so let's go and repeat the process for the expenses. And so let me just go ahead and input this into expenses. And under gifts, since I had kind of overrode that particular category, I'm going to just add it to childcare. And write childcare here. And then I'm going to repeat the process for February and March, just so we have a few months worth of data in there. Go ahead and do this. So for March, I'm going to go copy and paste it in just to show you guys example. And so similar to the expenses, the only difference between the income and the expenses is I have a extra title column here, simply because if you're going to go to Costco, you're likely going to go multiple times a month, and it's better to have multiple line items for each of the different days that you're actually going. This could also help you understand the frequency that you're going to different stores. And so in this exact example, if I wanted to put in, April 1st, 2021, and I had an expense of, let's say, Trader Joe's again, and it's listed under groceries. Notice that this dropdown is similar to the income tab, where it's going to have all of my categories that I have listed out. Let's say it was $20. And so now that we've inputted all of our income and all of our expenses for these last 3 to 4 months, we can go to the monthly tab. And the monthly tab is automatically calculated. You don't need to touch anything. It will go through the January totals, the February totals, the March totals, all the way across until December. And so it'll go through the income, right? How much money you're actually bringing in, your expenses. It'll go through how much you're actually saving, and then it'll also calculate your savings rate. And so if you look at all of our expenses, notice that we have housing, childcare, but we have all of these extra categories. And if we're not using the categories, what you can just do is you can actually select these 4 rows and click hide. And then guess what? Like, you no longer will have to see them. And this can apply if maybe instead of using 10 categories, you only have 5 categories. You can hide any categories that you are not using. And so we can kind of see the different breakdowns really, really quickly in a table format of each particular month, along with the breakdown of, okay, if we're looking at it in January, 70% was spent on housing, 50% was on groceries, and they had a savings rate of 44.7%. But then in February, it kind of lowered. There was a little bit less spent on housing, a little bit more was spent on household supplies. And then in March, housing was only 52% because we'd spent $500 on household supplies. So this is just an example of something that's automatic that you can just quickly glance at to kind of see where you are in a particular month. And so all of that monthly data and the income expenses will aggregate to a yearly view. And the yearly view is great because it'll kind of summarize really, really quickly how much money you've made that year, your total expenses, your savings, and your overall savings rate. And it'll also show the period of time that this particular tracker is for. And so since we're starting at January 1st, 2021, it's going to end January 1st, 2022. And also, it'll show the different breakdown by categories. And so 83% of our income is from our paycheck, and any of these extra categories that we don't want to include, we can just highlight them by using the shift button and click hide rows, and boom, all of those were actually hidden. If you did make a mistake, that's okay. You can just hit the edit undo button or Control Z, and that will help fix that issue. And same thing with expenses. Notice, we have all of our expenses here, but we have a few of these extra categories, right? And so we can just make sure that we hide them, and then they will go away. And so we're able to quickly see the breakdown in a yearly view, not just a monthly view, but a yearly view of all of our expenses, all of our incomes. And ultimately, this is just really simple, right? This is just something that you can do very, very quickly by entering your income transactions, your expense transactions, and get a monthly and yearly view. In addition, I created an extra tab with some charts. And so this will quickly automatically show the breakdown for your income and your expenses and your savings for each of the different months. It'll also show quickly some donut charts for your yearly income and your yearly expenses. And so as you enter data throughout the year, these charts will automatically update. And so there's nothing that you have to do to refresh the data. And so just to, kind of recap, right? This expense tracker is meant to be simple. I wanted this so you can either update this using Google Sheets, or you can update this on Excel via your computer. If you're using Google Sheets, you can actually update this using a mobile device. But you can also export transactions from your credit card statements and import them directly into your income and directly into your expenses tab. All you have to do is just make sure that you're not touching the month and week number columns. You're only touching those that are highlighted with the blue background. And there's instructions at the top of every single tab to make sure that you know exactly which columns you should be inputting data into. And so let me know, guys, if you guys have any questions. I really hope this can help you guys with tracking. I really hope that 2021 is going to be the best year yet, and you guys will find this valuable. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Send me a DM, and I'd be happy to help you guys out. Thanks so much.